Okay, people. This is the first of my meta videos where I react to people reacting to something. In this case, I'm reacting to classical musician Amy Shafer from Tennessee reacting to Led Zeppelin's famous Kashmir, which is easily the most classical of all of Led Zeppelin's output. Now, she's a trained harpist and pianist, and she certainly doesn't sound like she comes from Tennessee, so I'm guessing she was born in Europe somewhere. Anyway, let's get into it.
Last month's winner of the community poll was Led Zeppelin's Kashmir. And
good choice.
Most of you who have been following my
Kashmir
journey know that fairly early on, I
remember it when it came out.
Led Zeppelin was Stairway to Heaven, and I enjoyed that experience quite a bit. And I've always been intending to come back around, and thanks
Stairway
to
to
you all,
Heaven, pedestrian.
now is my turn to come back to Led Zeppelin and hear another one of their pieces. Now, I don't know a whole lot about this piece, but Vlad did tell me that it was composed over the course of about 3 years, so it's not one of those quickly done and move on sort of works.
Fair enough. This
And
is
he
giving
also
some
said
good
that
background, Amy. Good.
It is one of their two most highly recognized epic progressive pieces, and the other one is Stairway to Heaven. So I've heard one, and now this is the second one. If you haven't seen my first
Kashmir is
listen and
definitely a very
experience with
different
Stairway
kettle of
to
fish
Heaven,
to
you can check it right
Stairway to
there.
Heaven.
But I'm ready to dig in.
You ready? Right, let's dig in.
See how this compares to the last time I heard Led Zeppelin.
Is that the only other time you've heard Led Zeppelin? Ah, yes, John Bonham's great drumming. Incredible drum sound with a huge bass drum. Distinctive straight away, John Bonham and his bass drum.
So I noticed right away this little riff or hook, and I still haven't figured out exactly the distinction between riff and hook, but anyway. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum.
Well, I'll tell you.
Da-da-dum.
A hook is something
And
that someone
it
sings.
has this
A
chromatic
riff is something that
accent
someone plays.
to it. If we
But you wouldn't know this because you're a classical music.
There's a
We don't have riffs in classical music,
starts
do
on
we?
this A,
Da-na-na-na.
and then it's just up a half step to the A sharp, and then up a half step to the B, and then up a half step to the C, and then it goes a whole step up to the D. But it's
Yeah, a
this
chromatic,
great
ascending chromatic.
accent, which builds this sort of immediate sense of anticipation. Da-da-da.
Amazing. She's gone on
A
about.
little higher.
She's talking
And a little
more
higher.
about this
And a
thing
little
than
higher.
the music actually was played.
And it's a nice way to start.
It's only the beginning, girl.
It really makes you feel like something's coming that's going to be
Well,
interesting.
it's not really something coming. But anyway,
Let's go back. I haven't gone very far.
I think you've basically heard it. Da-da-da, da-da-da.
Now we're back down again, climbing.
You haven't mentioned that really it's like a drone in the bass.
Here comes the voice.
So although it's going up in semitones, you're not changing the harmony. I check out the anguished expression. She's going through some deep emotional feelings going on now. It's like it's tapped into her very soul. Either that or she's putting it on. Hang on, I can do it too.
There's some cross rhythms happening here.
Cross rhythms. Oh, you hit the snare drum. I don't know about you people, viewers, but when I listen to music, you don't really see it. I don't think you see it on my face like that. It's got to be put on.
So this isn't exactly, well, I try not to come to these with preconceived ideas, but Kashmir, I guess I was, maybe it's partly because of Stairway to Heaven and how smooth that one was. I was expecting maybe a more flowing type piece. I'm not saying that I'm disappointed, but
it's Led Zeppelin. Why would you expect flowing?
Very different from Stairway to Heaven in the style of singing that the voice is using.
It's Robert Plant. It's the same style.
Rhythmic. It's more emphatic on every syllable, and
well, one's a ballad and the other one is something else.
More small pieces, small little motifs or hooks or whatever you want to call them.
That's 1 inch.
And at the same time, it's kind of doing the same thing that Stairway to Heaven did, and that a lot of really good music does.
What?
In that it is building layer by layer as it moves along. That doesn't mean that all good music, that it has to do that in order to be a good piece of music, but it is one of the very common. I
suppose it does build a bit. It's a long song.
I'm hearing some.
It builds very slow.
Adding in, and the strings adding in, and now we have this figure that's da 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 dum, which has joined in now just a little bit ago, and every little bit is adding one more.
Yes, it's building. It's building, Amy. You're not wrong.
Texture to the musical texture, and it gives us this very compelling sense to the music. So let's go on. I'm curious to see if it keeps adding or what's going to happen
Work the
next.
Ravel.
But anyway, back up just a couple seconds. Here we go.
Oh, you see, it went whoa, whoa. Oh, and here comes the full orchestra. The brass. I think we're heading for a chorus. Wait for it. No, wait for the next one.
And that little interlude section, I kind of like this. Let's see. To me, it sounds a bit like an organ, synthesized organ something, but I'm not sure exactly what it's supposed to be. But it's the cross rhythms happening here that are really, well, it gives a bit of
syncopation,
jazzy,
Amy, but you know, it's rock music.
Feel to it.
Rock music is always syncopated.
And or blues and or gospel, all of those.
Well, you're jumping in a semiquaver early, but it's just normal for rock.
Section of musical style. They have these layers of rhythm coming in at different points, and to me, this kind of pulls that out a little bit. It gives a little bit of stylistic flair to it, which is nice because everything else is so clocked. And
because classical music tends to be right on the beat, and rock music often comes in a tad early, a quaver early, semi-quaver early. It's just normal rock music, Amy. Surely you must have heard enough to know that.
there's some trumpet in there.
Yes. Well, with some brass anyway. Yeah, I'd say it's trumpet.
That was interesting.
Love the azure jumper you got on there, by the way, Amy. With a few little sparkly bits in the weave.
Here, but
Very nice. Yes, we got the variation. Robert Plant and his distinctive vocals over John Bonham's distinctive bass drum. She can't think of anything to say about Robert Plant's voice here. She's going, am I going to stop at the video now? Am I going to stop it? No. I'm waiting for something a bit bigger.
interesting.
Couldn't think of what to say, so I was like, interesting.
Here
Now I've
we
got
are.
something to say. So we've got the brass coming in, yes. Yes, this is
That was nice.
you like this is the chorus, basically.
It's shifting from one feel to another, but at the same time, there's a sort of continuity to it, because the drums are keeping the beat, holding it together, but within that we have this great shift from what we were just listening to with the
Yeah, you moved from the verse to the chorus, Amy. Come on, it's not revolutionary.
this bit here, which was such a catchy kind of
Verse?
powerful energy. Just
It's Kashmir. It's a great song.
itself, without even having to put a lot of noise into it, and the texture of the piece thinned out there, so you could just enjoy that bum bum.
Yeah, it's like a C section.
Ba-dum. And then, of course, it was interjected with this ya-da-da-da-dum, this little bit of quick figure, and then it goes back to bum, 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 da-dum. And I enjoyed that section quite a bit. And then, of course, we go back to the bum, bum,
Yeah, look, it
bum,
changes,
bum.
but you're
Now,
from a
another
classical
thing that I
background,
noticed,
Amy. Why is this a surprise?
This set of
I mean, listen to
chords,
any Beethoven symphony or
I'm just going
anyone's
to
symphony, and
lump
it's
into
just hear
the
constant
blues and
changes.
jazz
It's not
style.
not revolutionary.
They are doing a sort of chromatic descent, whereas at the beginning, where I pointed out the chromatic ascent, and I don't want to
So
get
at one
something
point
too
it went up,
technical
and
here.
now
What
it's
I mean
coming
by
down.
Chromatic. It's a very minute, small, incremental rising of the pitch.
Have you
And
ever heard
you
of
don't have to
Newton's
know
law
a lot
of gravity?
Music,
What goes up
theory, or
must come
understand a
down.
bunch of fancy terminology to recognize that it's just creeping up a tiny bit and a tiny bit more and a tiny bit more. Or when we're going downwards, like bum, 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 bum. It's just going down, almost like we're sliding down, but we're sliding down in distinct increments.
This is supposed to be a lesson. She's trying to
And
teach
I always
everyone
love
about
to tell my
semitones.
students that
The difference
the
between a
word
semitone and a
chromatic
tone.
comes from the root word meaning colored or colorful, and it has to do with
Chromatic.
the idea of the colors of tonality. But basically chromatic means, an easy way to remember would be like, if you're looking at a piano, just think of it as using every single color of the keys, going up or going down, both black and white. You're not
So
skipping
this is
any- all the colors.
like a lot of people who
And
react just
it's
telling me what
very
they think, but in her
colourful.
case, she's trying to educate.
Oral effect as well.
I guess this is what happens
So anyway,
when people
little
spend
digression.
too much time
if you want
teaching.
to know more
they
about
can't stop
music theory
teaching.
and all of that, I am currently
Now we've
putting
got
a
the
course
ad.
out on my Coffee and Patreon pages where we dig into these
Now, I've
things.
got to say,
and
as
it
a
will be running
long-time
for quite
YouTube
some
watcher,
time,
I
and it will
really
always
hate
be there for anybody who comes in at any point and wants to
clip
support
ads.
this
I hate
journey
them.
of
I have to
mine.
jump them, or
And
sometimes I
maybe
just
learn a bit
quit
more about music too.
the
But
clip
let's get back
altogether
to
as
this
soon as,
because,
soon as I hit those.
I haven't heard
Nobody
the whole
wants to
piece yet,
hear that
and
stuff, Amy.
I have some ways to go.
Some ways to go. Yeah, I think Kashmir is quite a long song. We're going to sit through the whole lot, or are you going to skip it? I remember when I got Physical Graffiti when it came out. What a great album that was. Really, and it still is a great album. Lots of great stuff on it. I think it's as good an album as Volume 4. Volume 1, the first Led Zeppelin album is really good too. And of course then they went to garbage after Physical Graffiti, but Physical Graffiti itself, very good.
I'm enjoying the voice and the violins played one on top of the other.
And I'm curious as to who did the arrangement of this song, because it is very uncharacteristic of Led Zeppelin.
Now we're back. Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum.
That's what we call stating the obvious. We're back to da-da-dum. I'm just going to circle it on the score. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. We went somewhere else and then we came back to where we started from. Exactly what they do in classical music. I mean, this is really a gold mine for her to work with, because she's a classical musician and this is basically classical music. It's just got classical music with John Bonham's drums and Robert Plant's rock voice.
And there's another thing that I want to point out here too, is whereas the strings have this little da-da-dum, da-da-dum rhythm, so also the bass is using that same rhythm but adding something to it.
She's not doing that at the time. That's computer graphics pen. Computer graphics pen, not...
And you can hear within that figure...
Not the pen she's holding in her hand. The pen she's holding in her hand is
strings are building
only a fine point, whereas that thing is definitely computer generated later.
If you listen closely, you can hear what the bass is doing is linked to what the drums are doing. And so everything is very well stacked and tied together. All these little elements
classical
and textures.
orchestration.
They're not just thrown in randomly. But
any composer, famous classical composer would do that.
Which is getting very
Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, you name it.
Free above it and carrying on in its kind of flamboyant.
What is that word?
Free, expressive way.
Couldn't find it.
And he can be free like that because everything else underneath is holding it together. And so everything keeps going on. Let's keep going.
She hasn't mentioned the obvious, which is it's classical. She should have mentioned. And she hasn't said a thing about the lyrics. But I guess because, assuming she's born in Europe, probably the words aren't so important to her.
That was nice. We're back to the strings here with their figure.
I've got to say, she's done a lovely job on the hair.
Here comes the voice again.
The hair, and it looks like she's got some makeup on. Lovely azure jumper. So yeah, she's really styled up for it. I've got to admit, I didn't put any makeup on myself when I was doing this, but I did change my shirt, so I suppose that's something.
Something that sounds like a deep brass instrument down in the bass, like a
like a tuba
or I'm not sure what that is, whether it's the bass or is it a brass instrument. This part just makes you want to get up and walk.
And walk?
it all is this voice. This really reminds me of old style band music.
Old style band music. Like brass bands. This is not brass band, this is orchestral. Come on, Amy. You should know this is orchestral. Blatantly obvious.
Okay, he's climbing up.
Yes, and we've got that distinctive Asian scale. What is it? Harmonic minor, probably.
I like the way this plays with the direction that the music travels. Sometimes it's ascending, sometimes it's descending.
Like I said, what goes up must come down. Fading out. I can't remember where that was all
We're
about.
still
Maybe it was.
climbing and climbing and climbing.
Got a feeling it was a really long song from my memory. It's been a while since I
It's
heard it.
fading out now. That was very interesting for me to hear this music. And yes, I did somehow imagine when I started that maybe I would hear more similarities with Stairway to Heaven stylistically. But this is really quite different in a lot of ways. Just as I was saying earlier, it doesn't have such a flowing melodic line to it.
No, it's a completely different
And
song,
in fact,
Amy.
the voice is not one that I would call particularly
And even Stairway to Heaven is
attractive
not
in
typical
this
Led
song.
Zeppelin. God, if you listen
on
to
its
Black
own.
Dog or something, give you a much
But-
better idea of what Led Zeppelin normally is.
It has a very expressive, almost raw feel to it, and colors the music even more. And so again, I'm not saying I dislike it. It was just a different expectation that I had, even though I tried hard not to come with expectations, but I can't help it. I mean, I try, but it happens.
You were
But
expecting
I
a second
enjoyed it
Stairway
a
to
lot,
Heaven.
and there are some things that I notice between the two, in that are similar between the two, in that both of them are very tightly constructed, meaning the music is formed in such a way that everything links one to another. So even though they have a very different sound, a very different feel to them, they do share that commonality.
Right, that
And
they're both songs.
I enjoy that solid build of the music. I do.
Nice, you like
And
them
it
both
makes
because
it
they both
easier when a
build.
piece of music is built that way. It makes it easier for me to enjoy it because it's kind of like walking into a house that you feel is well made, so you don't have floorboards creaking or hinges falling off of doors or the
Yeah,
walls
they're both
aren't
very well
flimsy.
planned out.
You
You're
have a
right
bit of
there.
security, so you can just
Yeah,
sit down and relax and enjoy
Those
the
two are the
piece.
most
And
well arranged of
so
all
I'm
the Led
not
Zeppelin stuff.
trying. I'm not saying that we should always be technically focused, but as a musician, I notice these things.
Yeah,
just
very
like
cool.
a builder would walk
It
into
is
a
true.
home and notice.
You should
the way
listen to
it's
Black Dog.
constructed. I can't help it. It's just who I am and how I look at music. It's one of the things that I'm always conscious
Or a
of.
whole lot of love. Have a
And
listen to
so,
a whole lot of love. Get a
in this
real
case,
taste of what they're
I
about.
enjoyed that very solid, tightly constructed build of the piece. Having come with these expectations, which I brought with me from my experience with Stairway, now listening to this and finding it so different, it helps me to appreciate the musical ability of this band more, because I recognize that they don't just have one.
Well, that's a bit unfortunate, because you're not going to find anything else like
everything
Kashmir in their collection.
Sounds like they don't have one masterpiece.
No,
They have two very well
They've got two.
designed pieces of music here, Stairway and
Yeah,
now
neither of them are typical
And
of Led
they are
Zeppelin.
not
You're in for a shock and listen to
copies
them
of
properly.
each other. They are their own entities, musically, stylistically.
No kidding, it's Led Zeppelin, lady. It's Led Zeppelin. They're famous,
And
like one of the
this
greats.
is going to be an interesting thing for me to.
Don't
this
you have any
song is going to be an
idea
interesting one for me
how
to dig
famous they
into
were?
in depth, and as usual, I will take several
Oh my
days
God.
to listen to it some more. One more thing Vlad told me is that there are some orchestral arrangements, transcriptions of this piece, and maybe I'll go check some of those out just to see what people have done with it. And I will come back and record an in-depth video with my findings and experiences after having lived with the music for a few days. And of course, as usual, they will both be published at the same time, and you can follow the link to that in-depth exploration at the
Very
end
good.
of this video. And we'll see what we find. I'll see you soon.
Oh, stop.
Hi, everyone.
Stop. Stop. All right. There you are with your harp. Well, there you go. That was Amy Shafer and her reaction to Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. So, yeah, I mean, you are a classical muso, Amy. I wasn't grabbed with all the... I don't see the point in turning this into a beginner's lecture, into an educational thing. I know that teachers like to stay teachers at all times, but it's supposed to be a reaction video. Maybe just react rather than trying to teach. And really, it's a shame you didn't do some more background on Led Zeppelin. Would have had a better idea of what they're all about. And maybe if you'd looked into them, you would have realised how incredibly famous they were and how influential. Anyway, good Amy. Nicely prepared, nicely executed.